The lands between are rife with finger propaganda. 2 fingers? Good. 3 fingers? Bad. And any more than that is a fine line between a blessing of intelligence and what appears to be a horrific, cursed existence. But given the creator of the game, it would be wise to pay more attention to the unmentioned cousins of fingers and hands. Toes, and most importantly, feet. After all, the very daughter of the Greater Will's legs and feet are fingers, and what are meant to be the feet on the Sword of Radagon look in fact an awful lot like the 2 middle fingers on the Finger Creepers, found occasionally either itching or comforting each other. But most important of all, there is the overt, inseparable sword of the D-twins, where we clasp at this questionable combination. Every piece of this armor is a trove of lore, all the way down to the grippers. Its left foot presents us with the 2 and 3 toes, just like the fire giant, whose left hand and foot both show 2 burned and 3 undamaged appendages. Before the red fire giants conquered the mountaintops, the ice dragons were the lords of the peaks. However, this plurality may be up for question, as well as the fire giants being the only specifically red rulers of the mountains. If you look closely at Borealis, not only do you notice its features among dragons are singular, including the orientation of its horn, its nostrils, and a number of other features, it's actually coloured red and purple. I removed the frost effect so you can clearly see what lies beneath the mist, snow, and ice. It also shows signs of its battle with the fire giants, or some form of damage with holes on its chest. I didn't add a single drop of extra colour, only brightened what was already there to try and show the colours underneath the frost and the tarnishing of time. Perhaps this is the ancient dragon displayed on the dragon tower shield found in Farum Azula, red yet wielding not red but gold lightning. These red colours remind me a lot of Florisax, and the Dragon Man, who has hues of rainbow through his face, just like the rainbow speckles in the feet, wings, and tails of dragons. And as for how many of these ice dragons exist, while the English text refers to multiple dragons, the Japanese text suggests what we see in reality: a singular ice dragon, which was the lone lord of the mountain peaks before being defeated by the fire giants. There isn't a single other dragon, or even corpse, that looks remotely like this dragon. Not even the other dragon corpses found in the north. And as a side note, this is exactly what we see in Nightreign, with the very same singular ice dragon at the peaks of the mountaintops by the heart of the mountain, surrounded by corpses that don't share the unique features of this Lord of the Peak. As you already saw in previous videos, and this one already, looking closer at the armor pieces and weapons of Elden Ring can be just as interesting as the characters and monsters. The Crucible Knight armor not only has a beautiful gloam backing to the shield, but if you look closely at the armor itself, it has numerous speckles of blue, and uniquely on the Crucible Tree armor set, an abundance of green. While this green isn't found on the Crucible Axe set, its cape is green in a very similar manner to the outfit worn by Godric. This cape is distinctly different on the Crucible Tree armor, which is bright white. However, the sigil in the middle remains the same, and the same solid gold. And if you think you've seen this sigil somewhere else before, you'd be right. This is the exact same motif that reflects on Godfrey's cape, which appears to represent an amalgamation of various motifs, somewhat like a crucible. However, instead of beast aspects, there are plants, sunflowers, grapes, and palm trees. Like the sunflowers seen throughout the game, the grapes found adorning vine motifs and cups, and the palm tree motifs on the crypt throne in the Erd Tree Sanctuary. But there is perhaps one exception. At the base of this palm tree, there's what looks like could be a serpent, or at the very least something scaled. Much like another scaled being we see resting at the bottom of a tree, which is outrageously fitting. Because what no one has seemed to have noticed yet is that this is also the exact same motif that is adorning Godwyn's outfit, also comprised of red, blue, and gold. Though interestingly, the red portions are located in uniquely different places without deviating. To top off this fashion inspection, this is one of my favourite finds in regards to outfits. At a glance, Fia's deathbed outfit doesn't appear entirely remarkable. But upon closer inspection, there is actually a whole world of faded detail that is nothing short of enchanting and bewildering. Obviously, this cursory look wasn't going to cut it for me, so I enhanced the outfit with my scum magic and rendered the beautiful details into full view. Aren't they magnificent? And speaking of enchanting and bewildering, when I was pondering the headpieces that come with hair and examining Melania before she puts on her helmet, I considered that many of the outfits and headpieces don't show the actual hair of the individual, but are in fact a wig. Like R'hllana, for example, or Ansbach's beard. And that made me heavily consider Godfrey's crown. So I removed it, and I was astonished to find that there was hair underneath. The result is pretty menacing. Which do you think is more intimidating? Some prefer to hide their face entirely. Erdtree Guardians have a mask in likeness to the Zamor, and several others. The unfortunate thing about these masks is that usually there's nothing behind them, no character model and no secret to be found. But sometimes that isn't the case. Like the ancient warriors of Zamor, the sworn enemies of the fire giants since ancient times. Their face, to me, is very reminiscent of the serene smile of the similarly green grandmother, and to the very serpentine-coded Marika, who's rumoured to be the one that defeated the fell god of the fire giants. They have many fascinating details, like what appears to be a shackle on the arm which they cast spells with, which upon closer inspection is laden with runic script. Their stature and body seem very similar to Godskin apostles or curseblades, and they even appear very serpentine, just like the Godskin and their mother. And speaking of secret serpents, look at these little dopes. Secret serpents are a pervasive theme in Elden Ring, to the point that serpents are regarded as special, sacred, important, and clearly have a lot to do with past royalty and divinity. And yet, where are they? We have everything serpentine but no actual normal serpent. Rykard, Mesmer, snake people, Godskin, ulcerated tree spirits, grave wardens, abductor virgins, and vine motifs that strangulate and consume like the serpents on the very jars containing this very serpentine-coded Queen's people. And yet, no serpents, only their likeness. I think a major hint to solving this mystery of where all the serpents went in both the Shadowlands and the lands between lies in the abductor virgin, who has serpents spring forth to ensnare their prey within their womb. This is exactly like the Jar Shaman, who do the exact same thing, with a very suspicious grab that looks exactly like Rykard's serpent when it tries to devour us, and make us family. Both Volcano Manor and the Shaman Bonnie Village are the only places we find the trace of an actual serpent. And just as we've seen the fate of the shaman and their ilk who were jarred and sealed with motifs representing serpents, Rykard's own arena is strewn with what appear to be genuine serpents, assisting in his dark ritual. I would argue while the missing serpents in the lands between may be owed to Rykard and the construction of his own crucible, the missing serpents in the Shadowlands were, in my opinion, used in the creation of the shaman jars. After all, Rykard is merely copying the gods, taking whatever he pleased just as the gods did. Another fun fact about the virgin abductors is that only in Mount Gelmir, while bathing in the soul-infused magma of Rykard's volcano, we see faces and other images on them. And while this could just be a mistaken application of a texture, I find it pretty difficult to believe when the positioning seems so specific, and it isn't hard to see up close, down to there being clawing hands, wrenching at the womb area as if trying to tear it open. And this doesn't at all surprise me, as so much of Elden Ring's foundation is sacrifice. And especially child sacrifice, just like our own elite. For example, child jars, the fetishes made from Omen, the infant ancestral skull, the suspiciously small fingerslayer blade born of a corpse, slaying the children of R'hllana to weaken her shield and cause her to come crashing down. And in that same rite, R'hllana using those same children in rebirth rituals, as well as to repair her shield, and even turn them into projectiles to use them as literal weapons. As a side note, everyone may want to reconsider why all of her children left. Anyway, Dragon Communion being the slaying of Baal's children and offering up their hearts, the grafted scions being literal royal children sacrificed to the grafting process. These guys. And this is reflected in the priests of fire, like the Moloch ritual, where a child is passed through a bonding fire. On the staff of the guilty, we see what appears to be a newborn or fetus, skewered on the end of it, granting power like the residual life from glintstone. And that's because the truth of glintstone is that at the end of the day, it's using the power of life, even if residual. This is likely why red glintstone is shunned and practitioners of it are labelled mad or heretical, because it shows that the noble art of magic is in fact, in essence, the profane art of blood magic, and that the true cost of power is blood. And speaking of banishing unsightly and uncomfortable truths of origin, to the horror of the Hornsent, they discovered the practices they were partaking in were following the rites of the fell god. Instead of confront this and change their course, they hid the truth in the depths of the jails. Perhaps this is what incurred the wrath of Marika, who is said to have been the one that defeated this fell god, and why they were wiped out using representations of the fell god, who they themselves referred to as the evil god of fire. This is of course supported further by Moog, Marika's own personal, unsightly and uncomfortable truth that lays buried in the sewers. The luminary high priest of the revived ancient dynasty, the lord of blood and flame. And his face is uncannily similar to that of the one on the back of the Lamenter, which is a manifestation of the fell god. The very foundations of the Erd tree being sacrifice, with its roots watered by the very souls of its believers, brandishing the gold and hiding the truth underground, further strengthens this uncomfortable truth that the cost of nobility and gold is blood. This is possibly the least impressive secret, but it's something that had me double-taking, and is just one of those things I feel compelled to mention. There are some strange little drawings on some of the walls of Stormvale, and in some churches throughout the game. They remind me of several things, but mostly I just find them fascinating, like the secret elven-like glowing vines in the canopy of the Erd tree. I was shown this brilliant Reddit post that suggests the mountain range surrounding Volcano Manor that comprises the volcano looks an awful lot like a serpent consuming the manor. This amused me because something I have previously noticed was that the entire abyssal forest looks, to me, like the head of a serpent swallowing the impact site of the Finger Ruins, and the contextual evidence helps to support this. Hear me out, and then make sure to check the secret after this, which also supports the concept. Unlike the serpent in the lands between swallowing Gelmir being made of mountains, the serpent in the Shadowlands swallowing the Finger Ruins is quite literally comprised of a chasm containing the abyssal woods. This is what is called a negative image, which I'll show you my favourite example of in a moment, but even the context of these locations supports the theory. It's located right by the only location that we find a snakeskin in the Shadowlands, exactly like how the only location we find a snakeskin in the lands between is near the other map snake. Not to mention the earlier secret regarding the potential location and fate of the snakes in both the lands between and the Shadowlands. The Shadowlands map serpent is pointing from Bonnie Village toward the jagged peak where Bale is, the first and most vile of the dragons. The dragon whose heart takes over the host who consumes it, as just like the serpent, Bale apparently never truly dies. And I'd say this serpent even somewhat looks like Bale's icon. And if you don't believe me about the negative images, let me finally show you one of my all-time favourite discoveries and examples of negative images. In both the rises of astrologers that reach for the stars, and the depths of the catacombs and hero graves that rest at the very roots of the Erd tree, and the ancient pillar representing the manipulation of death, crafted by the ancient dynasty, we find an elevator with a fascinating motif. And while there's genuinely a lot to unpack, which I intend to do in the next video, if we apply the concept of the negative image, you'll no doubt see and be unable to unsee the likeness of fingers flanking the middle. Like a top-down view of the spiral tree with grasping hands, like the one seen enveloping the divine towers in Nightreign, much like an elevator to and from the heavens, allowing that which is below to rise above. Using the shards of divinity, the seeds of life from the heavens, which is enshrined in the divine towers. There is much, much more to this motif, and there are many more to explore. So if this fascinates you, be sure to subscribe for the next video. I'll explain to you in full exactly what we're looking at and what all of this means. as well as some of the best discoveries I've made and am most excited to share. This is the last 15 secrets before my next longform. I intended to do 2 before each large video release, though this may be reduced as unfortunately I have had to up my work outside of YouTube. If you want to help support the consistency of this channel and keep it afloat in the age of AI slop, please consider subscribing to my Patreon or buying me a coffee as a one-time donation. It takes a lot of time to research, write, record, film, edit, and manage these videos and their releases, as well as learn so many different programs and techniques to show you the things I do. Far more effort than YouTube pays. With that said, a huge thank you to my current patrons, YouTube members, and coffee buyers. You give me genuine hope to stabilize YouTube as a career. It means absolutely everything. So, thank you.